My name is Gabriel Wilson and my sister is Isabel Wilson. Growing up, Dad ran our house by making an example out of me. In elementary school, whenever Isabel missed a single math problem on her homework, Dad forced me to write it out 100 times. I scribbled until my fingers cramped into a knot. And I could barely grip the pen. Isabel would stand beside me crying, terrified that one careless mistake from her would make Dad punish me again. After that, she stopped making careless mistakes altogether. During middle school, Isabel used her allowance to buy a $10 bag of snacks for a boy she liked. The moment Dad found out, he slashed my monthly allowance from $1,200 down to a measly $200. For the next month, I survived entirely on cheap, stale bread until I was rushed to the ER for throwing up bile. Even then, Dad only relented when Isabel broke down in tears and promised never to waste another dime. Then college came and Isabel insisted on applying to the police academy. Dad tried to talk her out of it, but when she refused, he said, "You want to be a cop? Fine. Let me show you what real cops actually have to deal with." He erased my social security number from the system, staged my disappearance as a kidnapping, dumped me in the hunting ground of a serial killer the police were tracking. I spent days confined in an abandoned cabin calling for help until my voice went hoarse. By the time police caught the killer, I'd been badly injured and moved to an old underground well in the middle of nowhere. Back home, Isabel begged Dad for my tracker. "Dad, please just tell me where Gabriel is. I won't join the police force, okay? I'll drop the whole thing." Even though I was only a short distance away, I could no longer make a sound. "Dad, I'm done letting you make an example out of me." The metallic taste of blood rose in my throat as I clung to the gaps in the well's brick wall. My fingertips already raw and numb. Half my body dangled above freezing black water. If I slipped, I would drown, but I couldn't die. Voices drifted down from above, even through the echo of the 30-foot deep well. I recognized Isabel instantly. "Dad, where's the tracker? Just tell me, please. I'm begging you." Dad answered with his usual chilly composure. "Promise me you won't join the police academy and I'll tell you." "Dad, stop pushing me." I parted my lips, desperate to tell Isabel not to give in. But nothing came out. The killer had badly injured my mouth and throat, leaving me barely able to make a sound. Even breathing hurt. I pressed my forehead against the cold brick, trying to force out something. Anything. But all I could manage was a faint, broken noise. Tears slid from my eyes. I didn't know if I was crying for myself or for Isabel. It had always been this way. If Isabel came home a minute late, I took 100 lashes. If she read a book for fun, I copied 100 literary classics by hand. If she said she wasn't hungry, I was starved for days. Dad never punished Isabel directly. He punished me because he knew she cared about me. As long as he could hurt me, he could control her. Ever since Mom died in the line of duty, Dad had been consumed by paranoia. He claimed he couldn't lose Isabel, too. So he used every method imaginable to keep her tied to him. In his mind, all of it was protection. To me, it meant that whenever Isabel reached for a life of her own, Dad tightened his grip on me until she gave in. This time was no different. 3 days earlier, the serial killer had moved me from the abandoned cabin to this well, sadly injured me and thrown me down here to die. Then the cops caught him. I had spent 2 days and 1 night trying to climb out, growing weaker by the hour. The well walls were marked with muddy handprints where I tried to pull myself upward. When my fingers could no longer hold the cracks, I wedged my forearms against the bricks and dragged myself up inch by grueling inch. Every few feet, I had to stop, breathe, and force myself to keep going. I kept fighting because Dad had promised that if I made it out alive, he'd let Isabel join the police academy. It had been her dream since childhood. Mom's dying wish, too. I had held her back too many times. For once, I wanted her to choose her own life. So I couldn't die. Suddenly, light poured down from above. My Uncle Harrison Wilson's voice boomed over the opening. "Benjamin, you've completely lost your mind." Heavy footsteps rushed closer. "The tracker is pinging right here. Your son is down there. How could you throw your own flesh and blood into a well?" For 1 second, I thought it was over. Then the light vanished. Dad had slammed the well cover shut again. A heavy engine roared to life overhead. Dad had driven the car straight over the well cover. "Dad, what are you doing?" Isabel yelled. "Nobody is letting him out. Rip up that admission letter or the car stays put." Uncle Harrison exploded. "Benjamin, what's wrong with you?" Dad actually sounded amused. "The kidnapper is already behind bars. Before he even brought Gabriel to this hideout, I'd already had undercover cops stake out the perimeter. He's perfectly safe. You're all making a scene like he's actually dead." Huddled at the bottom of the dark well, I couldn't stop shaking as I listened to him. All Dad cared about was the sting operation and whether the killer had been caught. He knew where I was. Yet somehow decided I had never been in real danger. But we were in the middle of nowhere. It had taken almost 24 hours for the nearest squad car to arrive. Did Dad have any idea what happened during those 24 hours? When I screamed for him until my voice was gone. Did he hear me at all? I pried a loose stone from the wall and used the last of my strength to tap against the wooden cover. Thump, thump, thump. Uncle Harrison shouted, "He's alive. Gabriel is alive. Move the car." "Good," Dad replied, his voice completely flat. "Isabel, you heard your uncle. Gabriel is fine. The second you tear up that admission letter, I'll move the car. Otherwise, nobody is getting him out of there." Above me, I heard Isabel's breathing turn ragged. "Dad, I'm begging you, let him out of there. He's hurt. He needs to get to a hospital." "Tear it up," Uncle Harrison's voice boomed over the well. "Benjamin, how could you be so cruel?" But Dad only became angrier. "You think I'm the bad guy? Their mother died on the job and left me to raise these kids alone. I'm not going to watch Isabel throw her life away the same way. Rip up that letter or you can stand there and watch Gabriel die at the bottom of this well. Silence followed. When Isabel spoke again, her panic was gone. Fine. Footsteps moved above me. Then Uncle Harrison gasped. Isabel, what are you doing with that sickle? Her voice came down the well, frighteningly calm. Dad, move the car and let Gabriel out right now or I'm dying with him. You try me. My heart seized. I slammed my fist against the wooden cover, pounding until my knuckles went numb. I didn't want Isabel to do this. I didn't want her to trade her future or her life for mine. No, don't do this. Don't ruin your life for me. Dad went quiet. Then I heard the car door open. Fine, I'll move it. Just put the sickle down. Relief nearly made my arms give out. Then came a sharp crack. Everything went silent. Dad stood by the driver's door, holding half the car key. Oops, it's broken. Both Uncle Harrison and Isabel seemed stunned. I closed my eyes. Dad was still playing his game. Even now, Uncle Harrison's shouting grew frantic. Benjamin, Gabriel's life is on the line. Get him out first. For what? Dad shouted. So he can watch my daughter go kill herself on the force. The two men scuffled over the sickle. Uncle Harrison let out a panicked cry. What the hell are you doing? Stay back, Dad panted. Benjamin, put it down. Dad laughed. The sound warped into something like a sob. If someone has to die with Gabriel, maybe it should be me. My wife died doing that job and now my daughter wants to follow her. What was the point of all my sacrifice? A heavy thud shook the cover. Dad had sat down on it. The boards groaned and sagged under his weight, sending dirt and gravel raining down on my head. I tried to adjust my grip. My hand slipped. My body plummeted into the freezing water. It surged past my waist and up to my chest before I managed to catch myself against the wall. The shock stole my breath. I fought for the bricks, but the walls were slick and my arms too weak to pull me back up. Gabriel, Uncle Harrison shouted. I tried to answer, but with my mouth and throat badly injured, I couldn't form a single intelligible word. Nothing came out but a raw, muffled cry. Gabriel fell in the water. Dad's reply was immediate. He's trying to guilt you, Isabel. Don't fall for it. Dad, please just let us check on him. Rip up the admission letter first. The sickle clicked against the wooden planks. I'm counting to 3. If you don't tear it up, I'm swinging this down. 1. Fine. I'll do it. The sound of shredding paper drifted down the well. It felt as if the air itself were thinning with every piece Isabel tore apart. Piece by piece, the future she had worked for disappeared because of me. Once again, Dad had found the same lever he had used our entire lives. It was what Dad had always done. He hurt me. She surrendered and Dad called it love. Can you move the car now, Isabel? Asked. Barely holding herself together, I struggled to keep my head above the freezing water. Every movement took more strength than the last. But Dad still wasn't satisfied. Now take that pistol the academy issued you and throw it down the mountain. Uncle Harrison exploded. If she loses that pistol, she won't make it through the police academy. She already tore up the letter. What does she need it for? Throw it or the sickle goes down right now. Dad, Isabel whispered. Are you really going to keep pushing until there's nothing left of us? My movements grew slower and weaker. My fingers could no longer grip the stones. My legs were starting to fail. I tried to keep treading water, but my body felt heavier by the second. The voices overhead drifted farther away, blurring into an indistinguishable hum. I could no longer make out what Isabel or Dad were saying. I knew I wasn't going to make it. Dad had finally gotten what he wanted. He had sacrificed my life to burn Isabel's future to the ground. All I wanted was to apologize to her. In the next life, I wouldn't be a burden anymore. Finally, Uncle Harrison shoved Dad aside. Move. The tow truck's already on its way. You're not stopping me. Dad stumbled, slamming hard against the car door. A yellow tow truck rumbled into view. Uncle Harrison ran toward the road, waving until the driver pulled up beside the well. The driver jumped out and immediately began hooking steel towing cables to Dad's car. Isabel knelt by the opening, frantically clawing away loose gravel. Her voice had gone completely hoarse. Gabriel, the truck's here. Just hang on a little longer. The cable snapped taut and the winch began to crank. The car frame shuddered, then gradually shifted sideways. The wooden cover came into view. Uncle Harrison rushed over and tore the heavy boards away. The well lay completely open, allowing the midday sun to pour down into the darkness. The bottom of the well, my body floated face up. My eyes were half closed and my lips had turned deep purple. Gabriel. Isabel leaned over the opening, eyes bloodshot. The rope. Give me the rope. Uncle Harrison had already grabbed a rescue line from the truck, tied a loop at the end and lowered it into the well. If I could just lift my hands, grab it and loop it around my torso, they could pull me out. But I didn't move. Gabriel, come on, take the rope. Dad scoffed from behind them. He's known how to swim since he was a kid. Do you really think he'd drown in a well? He's obviously faking it. Isabel whipped around, staring at him in disbelief, floating in the freezing water. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. After 2 days and a night of bleeding out, I had nothing left inside me. The tow truck driver lowered a rope ladder. Dad's voice turned ice cold. Nobody goes down there to help him. If he wants to live, he can climb out himself. I've seen this routine 1,000 times. It won't work on me. Uncle Harrison stepped forward, swung his arm and punched Dad in the face. The heavy thud echoed through the mountain. Dad's head snapped to the side. He cupped his jaw, the shock in his eyes turning into rage. That was for Catherine. Uncle Harrison said through clenched teeth, if she could see what you've done to her son. She'd destroy you herself. And we'll make sure you rot in a cell for the rest of your life. Dad shut his mouth. Without another word, Uncle Harrison grabbed the rope ladder and scrambled down the well. He reached the bottom, wrapped his arms around me and hauled me out of the water. Resting against his chest, I felt weightless. Gabriel, he gave me a hard shake, his voice cracking. My head lolled to the side, totally unresponsive. With a trembling hand, Uncle Harrison pressed 2 fingers against the side of my neck, checking for any sign of life. He couldn't feel anything. His lips began to twitch. Tears spilled down his face. Then he snapped his head up and roared, Benjamin, he's not breathing. Benjamin, he's not breathing. Dad's face went pale. For the first time, I saw genuine fear cross his eyes. Stop pretending, he muttered. Uncle Harrison turned on him. Pretending? He shoved a hand against my chest and started CPR. 1. He pressed down hard. 2. 3. Isabel was sobbing above us. Gabriel. Please. Please breathe. I wanted to tell her I was still here. I wanted to tell her she didn't have to give up her dream. But my body wouldn't obey me. The world faded into darkness. Then. A violent jolt tore through my chest. I coughed. Water exploded from my lungs. Uncle Harrison immediately rolled me onto my side. That's it. Come on, Gabriel. I sucked in a ragged breath. Isabel screamed my name. Dad stood frozen. He's alive, Uncle Harrison said. Then he looked straight at Benjamin. But barely. The ambulance arrived minutes later. Paramedics rushed me onto a stretcher, cutting away my soaked clothes and attaching oxygen. One of them examined my throat. Severe trauma. Hypothermia. Possible internal bleeding. We need to move. As they carried me toward the ambulance, Isabel grabbed my hand. Her fingers were trembling. I'm sorry. I couldn't answer. She leaned closer. I tore up the letter because I thought it would save you. Her voice cracked. But I understand now. She looked over her shoulder at Dad. You never wanted to protect me. Dad's expression hardened. Isabel. You wanted to control me. The entire mountain seemed to go quiet. Dad stepped toward her. You're confused. Your brother is alive because I kept him safe. Uncle Harrison laughed bitterly. Safe? He pointed toward the well. You buried your son alive. Dad's jaw tightened. I knew the killer was being watched. You knew Gabriel was there. Yes. And you left him there anyway. Dad didn't answer. That was enough. Isabel slowly removed the police academy pistol from her waistband. Dad's eyes widened. I threw the admission letter away, she said. I destroyed everything you demanded. She placed the pistol into the paramedic's hands. But I'm still going. Dad stared at her. What? I'll apply again. You promised. No, Isabel replied. I surrendered because you were threatening Gabriel. She glanced at me on the stretcher. And I will never let you use him against me again. Dad's face twisted. You think you can just walk away from this family? Isabel wiped her tears. No. She looked at him with a strange calmness. I'm walking away from you. The ambulance door slammed shut. As we drove away, I watched Dad through the rear window. He stood beside the well alone. Uncle Harrison remained behind with the police. And for the first time, Dad looked small. 3 days later, I woke up in the hospital. My throat was bandaged. My ribs were wrapped. My hands were covered in stitches. Isabel was asleep beside my bed with her head resting on her arms. When I moved, her eyes opened immediately. Gabriel? She grabbed my hand. You're awake. I tried to speak. Only a painful whisper escaped. She started crying. Don't talk. Then she pulled something from her bag. A new admission letter. My eyes widened. I applied again, she whispered. I got accepted. I stared at her. She smiled through her tears. And this time, Dad can't stop me. The door opened. Uncle Harrison walked in carrying a thick folder. There's one more thing. He placed it on my bed. Your father's been arrested. I froze. Harrison nodded. The police found evidence that he deliberately concealed your location, tampered with your records, interfered with the investigation, and knowingly left you trapped in that well. Isabel squeezed my hand. He's facing years in prison. I looked toward the window. For years, Dad had controlled both our lives by making me suffer whenever Isabel tried to escape. He thought sacrificing me would keep her safe. He was wrong. He had only taught her exactly what kind of man he was. Uncle Harrison opened the folder. There's also something else. What? Isabel asked. Your father's confession. My heart stopped. Harrison pulled out a recording. Dad's voice filled the hospital room. I didn't think he'd actually die. Isabel's face went white. His voice continued. I thought Gabriel would survive like he always did. I closed my eyes. Those words hurt more than the wounds. He hadn't been protecting me. He had simply believed I was too stubborn to die. Isabel turned off the recording. Then she looked at me. Gabriel. I opened my eyes. You don't have to protect me anymore. I smiled weakly. And you don't have to protect me either. She laughed through her tears. For once, neither of us had to surrender anything. Dad had spent our entire childhood making one of us suffer so the other would obey. But his greatest mistake was believing that fear could keep us together forever. It couldn't. It only taught us how to leave.